a man died on that racetrack. And almost no one was held accountable. October 4, 2001. Blaise Alexander was 5 laps from the biggest win of his career when contact with Kerry Earnhardt sent him head first into the wall. The official ruling, a racing incident, case closed. But investigators, safety experts and Alexander's own family pointed to something far more troubling. Questions about the car, the track, and a safety standard NASCAR hadn't yet adopted. In the next 11 minutes, you'll know exactly who bore the real responsibility, and why it took another death to force a change. Of course, all tragedies are controversial to some extent. Who or what was to blame, what safety features were not in place, and so on. But this was especially controversial, because it took place after Dale Earnhardt's death, a tragedy heard around the world. Parallels between the wrecks were instantly drawn. Many believed ARCA and NASCAR had not done enough, in the wake of Earnhardt's death, to protect their drivers. The fallout from Alexander's tragic fate would lead to controversies that many fans still misunderstand today. This is the story of Blaise Alexander, and the controversy left behind after his death. Blaise Alexander Jr. was born in March of 1976. In 1980, when he was just 4 years old, his family moved to Pennsylvania, where he would grow up. His father, Blaise Sr., moved there to begin his first dealership. Blaise Jr. grew up around the family business, and naturally developed an interest in cars. When Blaise was young, his family had the resources to get him into racing. At the age of 12, he started competing in the World Karting Association. By 1992, he had become a champion in the WKA's Eastern Division. After karting, he moved into micro sprints, where he collected 48 wins across multiple divisions. In 1995, the teenager moved to Mooresville, North Carolina, to chase a racing career. Blaise Sr. later said he hardly ever saw his son, during that period, because he was constantly racing. Alexander made 5 ARCA starts in 1995 for his father's team. He qualified for the ARCA 200 at Daytona, the biggest race in the series, despite 10 other drivers failing to make the field. Then he finished 12th on the lead lap. A few months later at Talladega, he followed it up with a 13th place finish. At Pocono, near his hometown, he finished 5th in the first race of the doubleheader weekend. In the second race, he qualified 6th, but suffered electrical problems, and finished 33rd. Then came Atlanta, where he finished 8th. It was an impressive debut season. In 5 races, outside of one mechanical issue, he never finished worse than 13th, and at the time, ARCA fields were packed with more than 40 competitive cars every week. Things only improved from there. In 1996, running the full season, Blaise finished 5th in the championship standings, earned 6 top 5 finishes, and won Rookie of the Year honors. Around this time, Jimmie Spencer really took Blaise under his wing. Spencer had known the Alexander family before Blaise entered racing, and he became a mentor while Blaise tried to climb toward NASCAR. Mark Martin, one of Blaise's heroes, also took notice of the young driver. In 1997, Blaise made his first starts in both the Busch Series and Truck Series. He earned a top 10 in only his second Truck Series race at Watkins Glen. But despite running well in ARCA, he still had not broken through for his first victory. The next year, 1998, he started 24 Busch Series races. It was a major opportunity, helped in part by Jimmie Spencer's connections. But the results simply were not there. In 24 starts, Blaise failed to score a single top 10. In 1999, he moved back down to ARCA because he could only find rides for 2 Busch races. But returning to ARCA revived his momentum. He won 2 races, and put himself back on the radar. That performance earned him a full-time Busch Series ride with Team Sabco in 2000. At the Cup level, the organization was winning races, so it looked like a huge opportunity for Blaise's future. Instead, the season became another struggle. After missing Daytona, he scored only 2 top 10s in the next 31 races. Other drivers in the organization struggled too. After the season, the Busch program was bought out by Chip Ganassi, and Blaise lost his ride. In 2001, he returned to running a limited schedule in Busch and ARCA competition. In ARCA, he was excellent. Across 8 races he earned 2 poles, a victory, and 7 top 10s. By then, Blaise had built strong friendships throughout the garage. Casey Mears, P.J. Jones, and especially Jimmie Johnson became close friends with him. Johnson and Alexander had both attempted their first full Busch seasons together in 2000. and they naturally became close. Then October 4, 2001 arrived. Earlier that day, Jimmie Johnson had qualified for his first Cup Series race. But later that evening, Blaise was racing in the ARCA event at Lowe's Motor Speedway. Blaise started fourth and quickly moved toward the front. Throughout the race, he and Kerry Earnhardt battled for the lead. Kerry, of course, was still dealing with the loss of his father, Dale Earnhardt, earlier that same year. With 5 laps remaining, Alexander closed rapidly on Kerry. Off turn 4, lap traffic slowed Earnhardt slightly. Blaise saw an opening and moved Lowe for the lead. Then the two cars touched. Alexander slammed nearly head-on into the wall, bounced back across the track, and clipped Kerry's car, sending it flipping upside down. Kerry climbed from his car, but attention immediately shifted to Blaise. Emergency crews arrived instantly. However, Blaise was unconscious and unresponsive, reportedly showing no signs of life. He was transported to the infield care center, where medical staff worked for 25 minutes trying to revive him. They could not save him. Blaise Alexander was pronounced dead at 10:20 p.m. His father and brother were at the track. His mother was watching at home. The cause of death was another basilar skull fracture, the same type of injury that had taken Dale Earnhardt's life only months earlier. The race was immediately declared official. Kerry Earnhardt was credited with the victory because his car crossed the line first while sliding upside down. But it was not a win anyone could celebrate. He was a very likable kid, and he had talent. Jimmie Spencer said afterward, "He came down to North Carolina to make it big in NASCAR, and I believe he was on his way." Spencer stayed with the Alexander family after the announcement of Blaise's death. Track president Humpy Wheeler was devastated. As well, he had spent much of 2001 pushing for better safety measures. Earlier that year, Wheeler had even created the Humpy Bumper, an energy-absorbing carbon fiber bumper designed to reduce impact forces. NASCAR rejected the idea. When Blaise got killed in exactly the same kind of wreck Dale had, it blew me apart. Wheeler later admitted, ARCA had made some changes after Dale Earnhardt's death, requiring a neck collar intended to support the driver's head. But the collar actually prevented drivers from using a HANS device properly. At the same time, NASCAR only recommended the HANS device rather than requiring it. Everyone in racing knew the technology existed to improve safety, yet no mandate had been made. Immediately after Blaise's death, Wheeler publicly demanded NASCAR require head and neck restraints. NASCAR initially said nothing. Blaise's funeral took place on October 8 in Pennsylvania. At that point, no new safety measures had been announced. During the funeral, Blaise Sr. was approached by an unnamed father and son race duo. As he watched them, he thought about how grateful that father still was to have his son alive. He later recalled thinking, "I don't want this kid to die the way my kid did. I want to see something done to make sure this doesn't happen again." Humpy Wheeler and Blaise Sr. relentlessly pressured NASCAR, both publicly and privately. Finally, less than 2 weeks after Blaise's crash, NASCAR mandated the use of either the HANS device or the Hutchins device. ARCA followed shortly afterward, but controversy soon followed. Much of the media credited the safety changes entirely to Dale Earnhardt's death, not Blaise Alexander's. In his grief, Blaise Sr. deeply resented that narrative. "Humpy, they didn't make head restraints mandatory when Dale died," he said. "Had they done that, Blaise might still be alive." His son's death directly helped force meaningful safety reforms, yet many fans never realized it. Even today, many people mistakenly believe those mandates happened immediately after Dale Earnhardt's crash. In reality, Blaise Alexander's death became the final push that forced action. When Jimmie Johnson returned to the track after the accident, he noticed something painted on the front bumper of his Busch car. One of the crew members had drawn flames along with Blaise Alexander's initials, so that Blaise would always cross the finish line ahead of Jimmie. At first, the tribute was hand-drawn every week. Later, it became a permanent decal. Johnson carried Blaise's initials on his race cars for the rest of his entire NASCAR career. Years later, entering his final full-time season in 2020, Johnson reflected on the tribute and became emotional. "Wow," he quietly said. "He was a very special friend." Ironically, before the accident, both Johnson and Jimmie Spencer had already voiced concerns about how unsafe ARCA cars were compared to NASCAR equipment. there was also another side to the tragedy that often gets overlooked. Kerry Earnhardt. Only months after losing his father, Kerry suddenly found himself blamed by many fans for Blaise's death. But racing incidents like this are rarely that simple. Watching the crash back, Kerry appeared to leave room on the inside while holding his line. Blaise likely expected Kerry to drift slightly higher. Both drivers were racing aggressively for the same piece of track, and in a split second, disaster struck. No driver ever enters a corner intending for another competitor to lose his life. For Kerry, the emotion was enormous. Some people close to the sport later speculated that after everything he endured in 2001, he was never truly the same driver again. Blaise Alexander's death became far more than just another racing tragedy. It became a turning point in motorsports safety, a story of a grieving father forcing change, and a reminder of how quickly life can change in racing. His legacy lives on not only through the safety equipment that now saves drivers' lives, but through the people who knew him, raced beside him, and fought to make sure his death meant something. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe and leave a like. Thanks for watching.